Hi, I'm Jacob Dobson from Integrated Paving Concepts, and I'm going to be going through the SR-60 general overview video today with you. The SR-60 is a medium-sized heater in our reheat lineup. It's a very versatile machine. It can be used on smaller jobs and larger jobs. It's very user-friendly, easy to operate, as well as it's very mobile around the job site. In this video, we're going to be going over the initial unpackaging, initial setup, as well as the general usage of the machine to reheat asphalt, as well as melt thermoplastic. And at the end, we're going to go over how to set it up for transit so it doesn't get damaged in your trailer or truck. So the SR-60 will come to you in a wooden crate. You'll have the main machine here, a 100-foot umbilical cord that has propane and electrical bounded together. You'll have your propane regulator and your two heaters that are color-coded with a blue and red tab, so they line up on either side of the machine. As well as underneath the hood, you'll find a few spare parts, such as a spare belt, find all of your hose assembly, a digital thermometer, igniter, spare belt, the rest of the propane, as well as your operation manual and your troubleshooting guide. These are extremely important to have with you. If you ever have a problem in the field and you need to call one of our tech reps, you need to have this with you and you need to be by the machine. If you don't have this with you, there's not a lot we can do. There's a few other pieces of equipment that you'll need that aren't included with the SR-60. First thing is a 3,000 watt Honda generator with power conditioning. There's a lot of electrical components with the SR-60, and you need power conditioning to make sure that it has proper power coming to the machine so you don't have any electrical issues when you're using it. The other thing you'll need is two 100-pound propane tanks. The reason we have two is so they draw evenly and they don't freeze up. When this machine's in operation, it draws a lot of propane at once, and if you're only using one tank at a time, it's going to freeze up on you and you will lose your propane pressure. The SR-60 wings are attached through just a bolt system. You want to make sure that you line up the right colors, red and blue and blue. And then once you're done, make sure you connect the propane and you're all ready to go. Now that we have the wing heaters attached, we can lock the front foot and lower the rail down so we can use it. When you're lowering the rail, be careful not to let it slam down. You also want to make sure that the belt stays on the front pulley and on the back pulley. So if it's all lined up, we can just attach it with the 3/8 wrench, the bolts on either side. And you just want them. Now that the front rail is tight, we can add the alignment poles that are located underneath the hood. And they just mount to the front by screwing into either side. These help you position the machine from the back control box, allowing you to figure out where the front end is going to end up and where your heating area will be. So now we have the machine completely set up. We can add our power and propane to it. Assuming that you have your propane already regulators mounted to the propane tanks, your umbilical cord attached, you can hook up the propane just through a quick connect, like so. And your power either be plugged into either some sort of home power source or the Honda generator, and you'll be able to plug that in as well just through the umbilical cord through a regular connector. Like so. Now that we have the propane hooked up, we can turn the main valve on. This will send propane to the pilot lights. The pilot lights are used to ignite the propane inside the burners when they're operating. They'll stay on during the entire time you're using the machine until you shut off the propane. They're controlled by a valve on either side. Each side has its own pilot light. You just want to open it up, about 3 turns. Should be enough to get your propane flowing. And you just ignite it with some sort of ignition at the bottom, like so. And you'll see along the outside is a thermocouple. That's part of the safety system. That makes sure that the pilot lights are lit before it allows propane to flow through the machine. That way you don't have propane flowing into the atmosphere that isn't lit. If that happens, you could have someone smoking nearby and it would light the whole thing up. Now that the pilot lights are lit, we can lower the wing heaters, and it's just by pulling out the pin. and lowering it down. And there's a couple different notches in here to adjust the angle. If you have a crown in the road, you might need to move it up or down. We'll just put it on the middle setting for now. Anytime you're not moving the machine around the job site, you should always engage the brake mechanism. And it's a simple friction brake that has a metal plate rub up against the front tires. That's why it's also important to make sure your front tires are inflated to 40 psi so you get proper traction from them. And to disengage the brake, you just push the handle forward. Now that we have the propane set up, we can go over to the electrical. Anytime you plug in the machine, you always have to reset the GFI located on the right side of the handle. To turn the machine on, you pull the big red on-off button. To start the cycles, push the big green button. Starts the machine moving. Okay, now that we got the carriage moving, the heater works on a cycle system. One cycle is from the front to the back. It counts it down when it reaches the back switch. And at any point during its movement, you can use the front cycle button to send it forward. And anytime it's going forward, you want to send it in reverse, you can use the rear cycle button. And at any point in time in the heating, you can hit the start-stop button and stop it dead, and it shuts off the propane. When you start it back up, it always wants to move forward. The SR-60 covers an area that is 9 feet wide by 6.5 feet long. The heaters move back and forth in a reciprocating motion, sending heat down into the asphalt where it is absorbed. But this reciprocating motion also allows the surface to cool down. This avoids overheating the asphalt. This concept is covered in greater detail in the asphalt reheating presentation video found on our website. So as the machine reciprocates back and forth, you may have noticed that it spends more time in the middle and less time on the ends. In this next animation, we'll be covering the concept of effective heating area. This is a very important concept to know so you can use the machine correctly and efficiently.
Here we have the SR-60. It has an operational heat area that is 9 feet wide by 6.5 feet long. This is the area that the heaters move over during operations. This is not, however, the effective heating area. This area is marginally smaller than the stroke area due to variable temperatures in the area that the heater travels. These areas are affected by the immediate contact with colder asphalt that's not being heated, as well as ambient temperatures and wind conditions. As the SR-60 heater carriage moves forwards and backwards, the effective heating area is reduced to 8 foot 8 inches wide and varies from 5 to 6 feet long. Again, this is due to the range of factors as well as the product being installed. With all that said, you're always going to have consistent heat in the very center of the effective heating area. You always want to pay close attention to the front and back, as these areas will change depending on your conditions, and you'll need proper overlap for good productivity and a quality install. It is very important that you're aware of your effective heating area. This will allow you to properly position your machine for the next heat, as well as avoid stamping cold asphalt and damaging your templates. The variable heat area from your previous heat still warms the asphalt to some degree. Although this is not enough heat to stamp properly, you can still use this heat by properly positioning your machine so that the variable heat areas are overlapping. The end result is enough heat to stamp properly. Any project can be broken down into a series of overlapping heats. Using your reheat machine effectively will ensure productivity and a quality install.
Okay, so now that we know about the effective heating area, we need to be able to measure the asphalt temperature properly. And that can be done in two ways, using a temperature gauge or using some sort of probe for the asphalt. And you want to make sure you're taking readings in multiple locations, probing in multiple locations, so you know you have enough heat to get proper stamping depth. So when you're finished with the machine, you need to disconnect it properly. That means purging the propane from your lines. You'd want to shut off the propane at your propane tanks. And then an easy way to get rid of all the propane in the lines is just by starting a quick cycle. It'll purge out all the propane that's in the lines before it gets halfway down the rail. Use the rear cycle button to bring it back. By the time it gets back, all the propane is clear, and you can easily disconnect it without any propane leaks. Disconnect the power. So after we disconnected the propane lines and electrical lines, we can unbolt the front rail and fold it up. Fold up both wing side heaters, and we want to make sure that the rail is strapped down to the back handle. The reason we do this is because the heater carriage actually just runs on 4 wheels and it's not directly connected to the yellow part of the frame. By strapping it down, it keeps everything secure in transit. So now the machine's ready for transit. We always want to make sure when we're bringing it onto the trailer that we back it up onto your ramp of your trailer. This is because we have a lot of low-hanging parts from the front end here, the pilot lights and the burners. If we were to drive it in, we would most likely damage them. So we just want to back it in. Once we have it in the trailer, we want to use the proper tie-down points. At the back, it's best to run a strap across the thicker steel here above the hood. Don't go across here because this isn't very secure. And there's also a tie-down hook right underneath the control box here above the tire. And up front, you want to fish your straps through the yellow triangle here and down just above the wheel on either side to keep it secure. So that completes the overview of the SR-60. Thank you for watching the video.